Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We are here at the Rail, our home. Check out everything the Rail has going on at therailclub.net. They have a bunch of shows. You can rent this bitch out and do whatever you want. Definitely go support them because they support us, and it's pretty cool. But today we're on episode 145, which is almost 100 episodes since this person was last on here, which is super tight. But today we have Jordan from Bad Lives. What's going on?
Hello. Thanks for again having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. Like I said, that's crazy. I literally was just looking it up to be like, how long has it been? It's like, oh, it's a whole 100 episodes.
It's been a good few years.
I mean, you did it at the apartment, which is where we started. Yeah, that's like two venues ago. But yeah, thank you to be back, and I'm happy to see that you're back and where you're at currently, because it is definitely like a very easy progression to see, like what you've been up to. But I'm gonna kick this off to kind of get this out of the way, though. So Bad Lives, when I first met you, was your project entirely as far as like creatively, like you were creating all the music and everything, but you did have a band to play live. And that just recently changed in the past few months.
It's actually almost been a year now.
Almost been a year, yeah, actually.
Which is why. It's crazy. It doesn't feel like it.
Time just goes, and I'm like, I don't know what time, like how many months it is. It's like when you're always like, oh, like they just told me this, and it was like a year ago. Yeah. It just actually just happened. But so that was a change that was that has been made. Let's go ahead and like rip that Band-Aid off. Like take me through it. What kind of?
I don't know. I feel like there's people who made it out to be more than it was. Most people were understood. But like this is my first project. Yeah. So my mistake, I feel broadly, was thinking that more people understood that dynamic. Who were in music. I was like, okay, I understand this to be a lot of projects, Tame Impala or like even Panic at the Disco. Now there's so many projects now that are one person but feel like a lot of people. Like we were for a moment on a small record label, distributing through them. True. And then we start going through the promotion cycle for my second album. Like we've got everything set up. And then I'm like, my big goal is to kind of hone in on the me focus marketing, because I'm like, I don't want the waters to be muddied as far as like what the the product is. Yeah. I have Stormy and I have Hunter who play with me live, and that's that's awesome. It helps them bring the music to live. But when they market Panic at the Disco, they don't market Brendan Urie and 6 session musicians. That's just not what they do. And they kind of got sketched out by that. They're like, it feels kind of weird to us that you're like, kind of trying to like phase them out of the band. And I was like, from the beginning, I had made it very clear that I was like, as far as the music of this, the creative aspects, the creation, the recording, the investment, all of that is, my thing. I just have these, super cool people who are gracious enough to help me bring it to life. Yeah. So they were like, well, we're going to sever ties. And I was like, you know what? That's fine. Yeah. It's totally cool with me. But fast forward, I don't know, like a year and a half later, up to about a year ago, and we had played, like 70 or 80 shows in like 18 months. Like we were on the grind. and there's like a specific experience that I'll talk about in a second where I was really like questioning, because I'd started to build up contacts like in the industry, locally and nationally. And I was having discussions with them about, what does the next step of this look like? How do you go from being a big, small band to a small, medium-sized band? And they're like, well, XYZ needs to happen. But I was, we'd pull up to all these shows and, I was losing a lot of money, because like I took a lot of pride in, our production. I took a lot of pride in our equipment and the quality of show that we were able to provide. And, because I had Hunter and Stormy and they, they're not seeing any of the revenue from the, the creative aspect of things. Yeah. I tried to always go out of my way to make sure, if anything was coming in, especially door, typically I would split that between the two of them and just say like, this is what we got. You deserve more. Obviously we all who do this deserve more. But, that was my way of probably trying to like push a little guilt down in myself. But like, I was like, this is all I have to give you. And I want to give you as much as I can. Like with merchandise, that's an investment, all in and of itself. But even, you know, when I could afford to, I would take cuts out of merch and try to throw that down to them as well. So I tried to always make sure it was as, you know, they were getting as much bang for their buck as possible. Running around, you know, different parts of the country or different parts of the state with me to do all this crazy stuff. But we'd been doing that for about 18 months. And I was, you know, stepping back and looking at everything. And I was thinking about, you know, have I grown in the way that I want to grow? And the experience, yes, you know, because this is literally my first project. My first ever show, my second ever show was a Noise Route show of my life, you know? So I was like, you know, in the aspect of like musicianship, being a performer, defining who I am, you know, as a frontman of a band, yes, very, very valuable. Wouldn't trade, you know, the best or the worst of those shows for anything. But I look at, the revenue streams, you know, things like streaming, things like actual growth, things that these, people in the industry are telling me are markers that I need to be looking at as far as stepping up to the next level. You know, I went from when we started playing shows like 100 listeners to like 600 listeners. By the end of 18 months of playing shows.
Oh, that grind.
And I'm just like, you know, that's amazing. I don't want to sound ungrateful. Because I am. Even like when you think about, you know, putting 600 people in this room and they all know the music and they love the music. That's in itself like insane. But it's not where I wanted to be. And I kind of had to make that decision of unfortunately pursuing the industry in the way that the industry is, not in the way that I feel like it should be, the way that's most fair, the way that it was 10, 15 years ago, where you could go play shows and the right person's at the show, and that leads to, you know, XYZ relationship or opportunity. That's, you know, unless you're extremely lucky, that doesn't really happen anymore. So everything kind of happens on the phone now, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I remember when I first spoke to you about Bad Lives and realized that it was like your complete project, first of all, which again in itself, like I remember being like super amazed that this was your first project and you were putting out records like the way you were putting out to start off with. But yeah, seeing like how much effort y'all were putting into, I mean, the creative aspect as far as like songwriting stuff like that, you would definitely see it. But the grind of your playing shows, like you guys were playing shows all the time, like all the time. And you were one of the bands that everybody like would talk about and be like, yeah, this band is super good. Like it was, they were always wondering like why you were still like in a small pond. Like that was always the question. But as far as like live shows, like you were putting in the grind, the work and like playing lot.
We would, you know, I think one of my favorite shows, it was at a venue called Mohawk in Austin. But it was a Tuesday night. So, you know, we all have day jobs. Like, you know, we're obviously regular people. And so after work, I'm a teacher, so I get off around 3:30. We drove to Austin. You load in, you sound check, you play the show. We left Austin at like 2 a.m., I think, afterwards, after we'd settled and, you know, said our goodbyes. And then we got back into Dallas around like 5:30 a.m. And then I woke up at 6 to go to work the next day. I mean, that was like the grind of these shows. And it was, you know, there are weeks where sometimes we played 4 shows. You know, we're just making that work. We're ping-ponging around Denton, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Laredo, like whatever. And it was just too much.
And then not seeing, again, all that work and then not seeing it translate to what you need to become like the next level band. To not have to worry about
that's a good, need is a good descriptor, because like you can want all these things to happen, but I think I reached the point where I wasn't getting what I needed. And that's when it became an issue, because I could tell myself throughout the whole thing, it's a grind, it's a process, I'm discovering it, I want these things. But then you reach a certain point where you're like, all right, my needs are not in line with my lifestyle. And that's an issue.
Yeah. And I think that's what, because I mean, there's bands that just play shows forever. But that's like, that's what they want and that's what they need. That's like, okay, we're okay with this band just like playing and traveling and stuff like that. But if you have a goal in mind, and which since I've met you, like you have like had like a, maybe not the same goal, but maybe it's changed and evolved and everything, but there's always been the goal to like, how does this become more? And And yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I loved watching y'all play live. So, like, seeing that go away was like, oh, like, that kind of sucks. But seeing it from the aspect of, like, someone who understands, like, what someone, I mean, not specifically that I understand, like, I know what you need to do, but I can see that being a sacrifice to be like, okay, like, if that needs to go away so that we can just fully, like, concentrate on the other aspects that are doing well, that are growing, that I can see, you know, on number wise, like, you can see things like, oh, like, this is actually, like, doing something. Like, I am, you know, there's revenue coming in from this. Like, why wouldn't I dedicate more time to this? And this is growing the music itself. You're getting more listeners to pay attention to it.
And it was, you know, at least the beginnings of my thought process were, this is a solution in the hope that it brings me back around to getting to do that in a more sustainable way. Yeah. Because I love, you know, I feel like the one, like, the biggest takeaway from that like year and a half of hustle was, you know, the relationships. You know, Stormy's the greatest. Hunter and me and Hunter talk every day, you know, for better or for worse, if we're shooting the shit or whatever. We're always having interesting conversations, and, you know, we're all good friends. But I feel like on stage, it just, everything goes away and you kind of transform and you become this homogenous thing that I don't feel like you really understand it until you do it, you know? And those, you know, 30, 40 minutes, an hour, whatever that we got to be on stage, that was the good part. It was, again, the lack of growth in the way that I needed it to be, to be. And then, you know, other things off the stage that I wasn't vibing with, and that just didn't. And, you know, I have autism, so, like, socially, I don't often, you know, come across this. A lot of the times I'll just be like in my own thing. You know, I'm like, I show up, I'm ready to load in. You know, I want to come across as nice to everybody, but, like, sometimes I get really, really focused, and I'm just like, all right, load in is next. And, you know, you have people relying on you or whatever. You've got a bunch of equipment that you've put together, and you're like supposed to work this way or that way, but every single show something goes wrong. You know, that it just happens. So I'm always, like, thinking, and there's so many things in my mind that I feel like sometimes the social aspect of everything got a little lost on me. And, you know, there were a lot of people who were really, really kind to me, but I feel like there were also a lot of people who just, I feel like in music, something that we've lost, and I think this is because of the social media age, is the fact that scenes grow together. You know, I feel like a lot of the times, especially as we started to define our place within this area, and, you know, the quality that we were able to provide and the bands that we got to play with, some people had I empathize with this, the feeling that you need to dim other people's light for you to shine brighter, you know? Whereas, you know, in reality, it's a rising tide lifts all ships. You know, so I kind of encountered some, like, negativity and just some less than positive interactions where I didn't feel like I was putting that out. You know, I felt like you always think the best of yourself, but I felt like I was, you know, being kind to people.
What kind of, I mean, can you go a little more specific? Not specific who. What was this like?
Just like people, and this is the funny, I have I guess, anecdotal story. We were playing a little run that was like Houston, Austin, San Antonio, with a band that we had never met before, but, you know, they're very kind. They reached out to us. I helped them put the dates together because I had kind of built up my contacts at that point. And then we played the first show, which is at Chess Club in Austin, tiny little venue, own story on its own, interesting show. But right after we play, so first of all, this band's headlining, and they decide, and they told this to us, we think the most amount of people are going to be there at the beginning, so we're going to play first, and everybody else can play after, to nobody. That's what they said to us.
Oh,
and I was like,
to nobody?
Yeah, no, so I was like, all right, red flag.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what, whatever, you know, we're going to vibe. So they played, and then we played, and then a friend of mine's band who was from Austin, they played last. You know, we all try to support each other. We played to the bartender in that show because the people from the friend of mine's band, they were getting their stuff together, and the way that venue set up, it's, you know, it's not the best for you to just kind of have things set up and then you can watch other bands. Like, gotcha. you got to be on it. Yeah. So we played to nobody, and, you know, that's fine because we've played shows to nobody and had a great time before. But afterwards, Hunter's like hanging out with. Hunter was really, really good at talking to people.
Yeah,
and that was like that made it good for me to not have to do that, and like my like limitations, like wanting to talk to people or being effective at talking to people. Hunter was always great at that, so I didn't really have an issue.
Yeah,
he could talk to a wall and like be like, that wall's my best friend. Really then they knock the building down, and he's like, man, the wall is gone. Like I love Hunter. Yeah. So they talked to Hunter and they're like, dude, your band sucks. Like, I don't know why you're in that band. Y'all are shit. And he's like, you and your pretentious gear and all this. I'm like, whoa, wait.
What the fuck?
What is comical about this, though, is this band played the show and they had a projector that they put in front of their drum kit to project a fishbowl, like fish swimming around on their kick drum. Which I thought was cool until they called our rack that just had all of our stuff in it pretentious. So I was like, well, if I'm pretentious, what's that? But anyways, they tell Hunter this, like he's not going to turn around and come tell me.
He's like, you know what, obviously I'm playing that band.
Yeah, obviously he does.
Yeah.
So, we go to IHOP and we all are like, all right, what's the plan? Because we still have 2 more dates with this band. And I was, we kind of came to the consensus that like, fuck these guys. That's not cool. We don't back that. So we like let them know we're dropping the dates, and obviously they're like, dude, you're dog shit, your brand sucks, whatever. We're like, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And then Hunter got so heated, and he was like, ugh, and he had pancakes in front of him. And this is kind of a long-standing inside joke amongst all of us, is that Stormy was like, no, Hunter. Because he was like, you want me to go kick this guy's ass? Like, you want me to go piss in his Cheerios? That's what he would always say. And I was like, no. And Stormy was like, no, choose pancakes, not violence.
Choose pancakes.
Yeah, and that just became a thing. So it's just like stuff like that. And I mean,
that's crazy and unprompted. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It's like,
what
am I doing? Like,
because we just played our normal show. Like we were. What blew my mind is he didn't even watch us play. We actually played to a wall, and then the bartender was over on the side. So I was like, whatever. Or like a little away from the personal side and a little more to the business side. We played, and I'm gonna, keep all this anonymous.
Sure.
Because, there's good people working, for sometimes less than good bosses. We were playing, it was a big show. This is a big show. There were 6 bands on the bill. There were hundreds and hundreds of people here. We were required to sell tickets, which was fine, like hustle. So we sold 40 $20 tickets, which is pretty good. So we bring them $800 in cash, and they hand us back $80. And you'll be able to figure out what was happening here. But there's a room where there are live bands playing, and there's 300, 400, 500 people depending on the night. Next door, same event, same ticket, same everything. There's about 2,500 people watching some other stuff go on, and I'm like, so I speak to a few of my friends who are in the industry. They are more on the management side, and they're like you should be seeing 50 to 60% of that being that you sold the tickets and promoted the show, and you are the entertainment.
Yeah.
And I was in that kind of flipped in my head because it was a great show, and there's a lot of nice people associated with that association that put the show on. So I don't want to say anything negative about them. But on the back end, I was like, okay, yeah, we had merch made for this. We sold merch, which was cool. But we hustled to sell tickets, and then we hustled to put together, the show and everything. So I'm like, so we're selling the tickets, we're promoting the show, we're playing the show, and I'm losing money. And it was experiences like that, especially on a large scale. We're dealing with between what we sold in tickets and what we made in merch, $1,200, $1,300 for a night.
Yeah.
And, we're walking away. I'm netting $150 or $200 for merch, and we got $80 to split from the door.
And had you not had let's say merch or anything like that,
we would have made $80.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have cost us nearly what it cost the 3 of us to park.
Yeah. Oh yeah, actually, yeah.
So,
you're right about that.
So it's it just wasn't sustainable, and it's something that I want to do. Now I'm trying to. The pursuit is, how do I grow myself to a point where now these, big, medium-sized bands or small, big bands, whatever the tier list is, can look at me and say, that's somebody who I want playing first out of 3 bands on my tour. Cool, I like them. And, you know, I've like talked to like booking people from Live Nation and stuff about shows recently, and you know, it's moving in the right direction. It's just, I feel like, to surmise everything, a lot of people didn't want to understand, or didn't understand, or did understand, but it all just kind of, people assumed what they wanted to, and then never really asked
their
about
own
it.
narrative and be like, and just like see it from a again, like just on the surface, and be like, oh, this must have been like what it
he always kicked him out of the band and stopped playing shows. Like, what the heck? That's like, what's wrong with him? He's such a douchebag.
Yeah. Which again, like when it happened, we were like, not. I mean, shocked that it happened. We were just like, oh, like that's crazy, because y'all were on such a run of just playing stuff.
Well, we
like,
would say yes. We would say yes to most everything.
Yeah.
And then it went from that to like 3 times a week. I'm like, no, I'm not playing anymore.
And then, but then like looking at it, and we all had to talk. I mean, we all understood like how bad lives function. So we're like, oh, okay, this makes this is what's making sense. Which again, like even. I'm glad we kind of like talked about that and kind of got that out of the way. But to see what you wanted to focus on was a lot of like obviously like the writing music. You've been writing like a ton, but also your like social media like presence has had a major focus, and I feel like also helped turn that made going from that switch of being like we're a live band that's going to be playing like constantly, to be finding out this new avenue, which is the avenue that everybody's kind of needing to take now.
It's necessary
to create something, and figuring it out. But and I like seeing the stuff you put out, because you are trying it all to figure out like what's going on.
Quite literally.
I think it was it Indigo Girl? I can't remember which one, but like when you were posting clips like every day to put, and I loved it because it was the same format, but it works. It's just posting trying. How has your experience been with like diving into that kind of head first and figuring it out?
So I'll go long term and then short term because it's changed. Long term, you know, I had always been posting through, you know, us playing shows. And that was part of the fatigue, was like, you know, full-time job, family, you know, posting every single day on social media, managing the band and booking shows, prepping for those shows and practicing, and then playing the shows and, dealing with all the logistics. So all those different things were stacked on top of each other, and that's why it wasn't working. Whereas now, you know, I can just work on the content, work on the music. It's a lot easier. But I was posting every single day. I'm almost at the 2-year mark of posting every single day on TikTok. I had a little bit of a dropout on Instagram as I was working on new music, but TikTok was every single day.
For almost 2 years?
For 2 years, yeah.
That's crazy.
Like I'm like weeks away from 2 years. So I mean, that's minimum 700 posts, but sometimes on TikTok, you know, 2, 3, 4 posts a day.
Wow.
Just to do it. And I was trying everything because, you know, if on TikTok they kind of like stair step you, you know, as far as how many people they show your stuff to. So originally I would post and it'd get like 200 views, and it's months and months and months. I'm capping out at 200 views, and then one day it's like 400. I'm like, whoa, 400, that's double. And then every video gets 400, and then 600, then 800. And up until like about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, I was capping out at like 800-900 views a video. But at the same time, I had spoken to, I work with the same engineer in Austin. His name is Victor Gasper. He actually just won a Grammy this year, which is awesome.
That's crazy.
Super exciting. Wow. Super excited for him because he deserves it. Like, I've never seen someone hustle like he hustles. Every time, you know, we're working together, or just, you know, almost every day we're texting, but we were talking about like promoting your music, because he's working with all these different artists, you know, and a lot of them have kind of gone from being nobody to some of them, you know, having major deals and stuff. And he sees what does and doesn't work. Yeah. And he's like, not enough people focus on Spotify. You know, which you hear that and you're like, oh, everybody focuses on Spotify. What do you mean? I'm like, no, he's like focusing on feeding the algorithm of Spotify and the way that Spotify, you know, can blow up your music. And I was like, interesting, like, tell me about that. And he's like, well, there's certain thresholds that you need to hit. There's certain ratios that you need to hit as far as like stream to like, or stream to follow, or stream to playlist ad ratios. He's like, but once you hit that and once you reach a certain point, Spotify sees you as a real thing, and they're like, bleh, everywhere. And I was like taking baby steps through like, you know, testing out ads and stuff, and promotion that way to try to grow to the point where Spotify would throw up my stuff. And for a long time it didn't work, but you know, I kept pushing and pushing and pushing and like retooling and trying. And then come Indigo Girl, which that, you know, the story of that song basically is I was going in to record a single. And 2 days before I wrote Indigo Girl, before I was supposed to go to the studio, and my wife and I were listening to it, and she was like, you know, like, you should take this song instead. And I was like, really? Like, I like the other song. She's like, no, there's like, this feels like something. So then I sent it to Victor. He's like, oh, this is sick. Hell yeah. And then we record it in a day. You know, it gets finished. I put it out and I promote it. And it's, you know, it's fine. It gets a few like 2,000-3,000 streams in the first couple months. And then I start running ads for it. And it's picking up and it's picking up and it's picking up. And then one day something just, I guess, flips. And Spotify put it on like all of their algorithmic playlists. Like, whoa. Yeah. Like, and I go from, you know, 2,000 streams to 100,000 streams in a matter of like a couple months. And then 100,000 to 200,000, you know, a few months after that. Yeah. And I'm like, oh crap. And then every song I put out after that is automatically like fast tracked to this, you know, this platform. And I unlock something called discovery mode, which basically allows me allows Spotify to take my music, put it on more of their algorithmic playlists for a percentage of the revenue that's generated by those streams. So like streams that, you know, people just find me on TikTok, they click on my thing, they go listen to my music, unaffected. But if it's put on a playlist by discovery mode, then they get 30% of that, whatever those streams are. But you know, at this point now that's hundreds of thousands of streams that I wouldn't have otherwise got. So in a period of like stopping playing shows in like April, which is about where Indigo Girl comes out, to like October, you know, I go from 600 monthly listeners to 10,000 and have, you know, sustained that since then. Yeah. With like, sometimes it'll be up at 15,000, sometimes it'll be, you know, it's just the ebb and flow of Spotify. But about 10,000 I've stayed at. So since I stopped playing shows, you know, I've 15x'd how many listeners I have, and it's just been crazy. But with ads, the big thing that he was pushing me to try was a lot of people start with a marketing budget. And they'll say, all right, I'm going to spend $500 marketing this song. And they'll say, all right, what I'm going to do is like, I want people to go and listen to it like at the beginning. So I'm going to do $50 a day, and I'll run ads $50 a day for 10 days. That's $500. And I'll get like the first 2 weeks, I'll have really strong promotion. But the problem with that is that the algorithm doesn't understand who wants to listen to your music yet. So what you need to do is stair step it. So he said, day one, give it $1. And then let it figure out from that $1, the 1,000 people or whatever it pokes at, who are the 10 people who respond to it. And then the next day, give it $2. And it'll say, all right, those people who poked at it yesterday, we're going to find people like that. And now we're going to double that amount and see who pokes it from those people. And it gets more and more concise as you stair step it up. Yeah. So you're slowly increasing your reach, but you're also narrowing the specificity of your market. So by the time you get to $50, it knows exactly who to put it in front of. And so at one point when I was running the ads, I was like, my click-through rate was like 12 cents per click-through, which, you know, considered good is like 50 to 70 cents. Wow. So I was like massively overperforming using that technique. So I did that for a while. And then I think from that ad, a songwriter from Universal saw the ad, checked out the music, like directly reached out to me. And he was like, hey, like I think he wrote songs for Alicia Keys or something. That's like his big project, but he does it for tons of artists. He's like a signed writer for them. And he was like, would you be interested in doing something like this? And I was like, you know, I don't know. That sounds cool. Yeah. So he gave me all these resources to it. I had a meeting with him. I had a meeting with another person from Universal. And, you know, I'm still kind of figuring that out now. But Brain. I mean, is that something, I feel like that's something you would be good at, but is that something you'd want to like
be your thing. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm figuring that out.
Because I feel like there's a battle going to be with you with like, hey, I can do this and be good at it, but also like the artist in you who's like, I want to write stuff that I like. Yeah.
And later we can kind of talk about the, you know, the avenues that I'm kind of playing in right now. But again, with the content, you know, what was good about it was that people like that saw me and were able to reach out to me, and I built these positive relationships. But as far as like, now I remember what I was talking about that. I was asking him, like, you know, on a artist level, like, at what point do these labels start to pay attention to you? And he's like, I'm going to keep it like really, really, really real with you right now.
Hell yeah, that's the only type of talk you need. Like, I don't need any of this other shit.
And I was like, all right, cool, yes. And he said, these labels want nothing to do with you if you don't have at least 50,000 TikTok followers. He's like, they're not going to even entertain you.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, the state of music right now and the state of art as a whole is these are no longer companies that were started by people who love music to expand music. You know, these are companies that have shareholders to answer to. If they don't increase the amount of money they make, they get fired because they answer to people who are putting their money into them to grow that money.
Yeah.
So the only thing they're looking for is a sure thing. So if you cannot demonstrate that you have, first of all, created something that has inherent value, and second of all, have been able to personally market it to a very large amount of people who see value in it, they're not interested because they don't want to put in the work to grow you just because you're cool or you have good music. So like abandon that idea that a label's going to come around and think, oh, this music's great. I'm sending it to them with, you know, 400 Instagram followers or 1,000 TikTok followers. They're going to listen to it and an A&R is going to love it and they're going to push for me. That's never going to happen. Yeah. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It doesn't exist.
That's to say, people were like, I'm gonna be real with you and say that. Like, yes, that's people have probably known that's the feeling they get, but like you hear it and it's like, all right, yeah,
you want to hold out hope.
Yes, exactly. Like you want to hold out hope, then it's like, no, like someone's gonna find this and want to believe into something, be like, oh, this can be something, or like, because that's I feel like that's what a lot of us like grew up like thinking and seeing, like artists like, oh, like somebody,
because it existed.
It did exist. Like somebody, you're right. Like somebody was at the right show and like, oh, found this band, or oh, listen to this. Like, oh, have you ever? And started making connections. Then they start building and do something. And then again, someone putting that belief into an artist and trying. But yeah, because these labels have grown and aren't started by just like artists who are like, you're just trying to find cool stuff to put out.
Yeah.
It's all money based. So they're gonna want to be able to not lose any money. Like no one's taking risks anymore.
And it's not like they don't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
Because like not to like, I don't ever want to crap on any artist, especially like get that money, you know. I would, you know, get that money too. But like someone like Benson Boone, where I'm like, okay, this is someone who they created. You know, they created it. They wrote his music. They completely transformed the way he looks. And they're like, this product, because of XYZ thing, will sell. We know it'll sell. We took these old songs that people loved and we just changed a couple things. And we know they're still going to love them. Here is that. And to my surprise, usually like, you know, all these different organizations that kind of rank or rate albums or review albums and stuff, usually they kind of fall in line, you know, to a certain degree, whether that's paid or like influenced in other ways. But he got panned. His album that just came out, people were like 2 out of 10s, like Pitchfork and stuff. Like people who are reputable were like, this is like horrible. And that was surprising to me.
I have seen... And again, everyone's algorithm is going to be different. But that's one thing that I have seen from him that like this seemed formulaic. And I'm like, oh, this is like just like another one of those that gets it. But a lot of people that I've been looking at like just aren't taking it like for what it is. And it's like, no, like this is everyone, like a lot of people are calling out that like this just seems the generic way, planned way. Like this isn't special. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's not like even like the emotion behind it, like how almost robotic it feels. Like people are calling it out. Well,
it sounds like AI. Like what the fuck is Moonbeam ice cream? I have no idea. He doesn't even know.
He doesn't know. I've seen it get asked, and it's like he don't know what the fuck that is.
But
he
like,
just, it just sounded
enter
cool.
the rise of artists like Chapel Rowan, which is, you know, interesting because she's on a major label, but she has such a distinct visual personality and curated aesthetic. And it's something that, for probably the decade before this would not have been successful. But people seem to be craving authenticity from artists, which is interesting though, because the only way authenticity reaches the masses is either with financial support from a label, which kind of muddies the water of like how authentic that is. If you have a authentic aesthetic that has, is backed by a label with 10 stylists and a bunch of publicists and a bunch of A&R and a bunch of people testing all these little tiny aspects, then how like real is it? Or with social media, and you can use social media to
that's the alleged ghost.
Hunter's told me some ghost stories about it. But you can use social media to bring authenticity to the masses.
And I think that's me for sure. One experience that I have with social media and with like all media in general, but like and artistry and stuff like that is like, if I feel like it isn't authentic, like it turns me off of it already. Like anything. Like I hate like the what was the trend that was happening? This was like a while ago now, and people still do it. But like, the did I just write the song of the summer thing? And I'm like, I hate like the first time I saw it, and I was like,
interesting. Yeah,
okay,
did you?
Cool. Yeah, did you? Yeah. And then I was like, everybody's just like doing. Then I was like, okay, but there's a lot of stuff, and that's just like trends or whatever. So I'm okay with that because I'm like, it's a trend.
Yeah.
But there are like stuff where I'm like, this doesn't feel like it's you. Like it feels like you're trying to feed me something that you think I'm gonna like based on, again, a label mentality, which is like, this is the research that's been done. This will work.
This
like
is
or whatever.
proven to work. Yes.
You know what I mean? And that just like, it just takes like the feeling out of everything. Like, is this real? Like, no, it's what we think is gonna work.
Well, and that's what I talked to. Another thing I spoke to Victor about. Because throughout those 2 years of posting, I tried a lot of not only different types of content, but also different presentations of content. Because I think there's like a subconscious thing when we see a post and we see it and the lighting's good and the audio is good and, it's curated, it's snappy, it's whatever. There's a perception of quality there. But there also is a perception of like investment there, which... whether you understand it or not, or whether it's fair or not, because it could just be real people who are hustling and trying. Somebody who views that, when they see a video of someone laying on their bed using their front-facing camera to rant about something, they're like, that's me.
Yeah.
But when they see, lights, camera, action, curated, edited, jump cuts, whatever, they see entity, something bigger. So I played around with like, all right, what if I use just the camera audio, but I use the nice camera? Or what if I use my phone, but I use good audio? Stuff like that, those combinations to different types of avail. And then eventually I got to a point where I was like, I'm just going to post things that I like, and that was explosion.
Yeah, which
quite literally.
We'll explain like the recent like videos that you've been putting out. And you get like, as soon as like I started seeing the format of it, and I'm like, this is just like, if I was talking to you, I feel like we'd have this conversation. It's like, you know what I mean? Like I do see like the hook, like he's like, this is the hook or whatever. There's things you have to do. But then the conversation, like after the explanation, I'm like, this is just like talking. Like if I were to talk to you about like My Chemical Romance, like this is how you would tell me about this song if I asked.
And it's like the precipice to that is interesting. Like what caused me to begin doing that was, again, talking to Victor, common thread. And he was like, hey, have you updated Logic? And I was like, I haven't yet. He's like, do it. So I went and did it. And he said, there's a new stem splitter function where you can input a song and then it will use its computing power to break down that song into all of its individual parts. And you can hear what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I put in Helena and I was like, whoa. I did not hear that stuff because this was like days after the remaster of 3 Cheers came out.
Oh, okay.
And I was like listening to it nonstop and I was like, man, there's so much good stuff in here that I never noticed. So I put it in there, I put the remaster in there and I was like, I found all these cool things. And I was like, this kind of almost sounds like orchestral. And I was like, that's interesting. So I decided I'll put together this little video and I was like, I'll just throw it out there because I think it's cool. Like this is the kind of stuff that I love to nerd about. Songwriting, production, and engineering. That's what I love, people comment on the video sometimes like, I wish you would explain more of like the theory and stuff going on, or the music theory. I'm like, I don't know music theory. You know what I'm doing? I'm listening to the stems and I'm trying to match them, and I'm trying to get all the tones right by ear because I don't know what chords are, you know? So that like, it really, really fit in with me. And I post that video, and this is at the point where like my TikToks are getting like 900 views every single time I post. And the first 24 hours, it gets like 50 views. And I'm like, ain't that a bitch? You know, because it always felt like the more I tried, and this goes back to authenticity, the more I tried, the worse the videos did. And the less I tried, the better they did. Yeah. And I was like, you know, just another failed iteration of trying to create something cool and unique. And then, whole next day goes through, whatever. And over that night, I wake up and it's like, boom, you know, 1,000 views on the video, and, you know, hundreds of comments, you know, hundreds and hundreds of new followers. And, you know, within 7 days across my platforms, that video got 600,000 views. And it's been 3 weeks since that happened. And I've been posting every day, you know, trying to stay very consistent, trying to like meet the demand of what people want, but also staying true to what I think is interesting. And I've gotten 2 million views in the last 3 weeks.
Wow.
I've gotten almost 10,000 new followers across my platforms. You know, it took me 2 years to get to 1,400 followers on TikTok, and I'll pass 7,000 today.
That's wild.
Yeah. That's so crazy. And now every time I post something, you know, it's way out there. It's out there. Like, even if it's, you know, my like lesser viewed videos will get like 5,000-6,000 views. But like, I would say the average 20 to 60,000, some of them near 100,000. I've got like 3 or 4 videos over 150,000, one that's over 400,000. Like, they're out there. And, you know, I'm getting hundreds of comments a day, and I try to answer every single comment because I'm like, you can't let the moment slip away. Yeah. You know, because when you go viral on TikTok, you get this little lightning bolt badge next to your icon. Yeah. And that means they're really, really, really pushing you. And I was like, okay, can't let this lightning bolt go away. So I've been hustling and hustling and hustling and hustling and hustling. And it's in pursuit of knowing that I have to have a substantial following to get any opportunity within basically any artistic avenue that I want to pursue. So like, over the last year, I wrote a book. It's a novel. It's like slice of life. It follows this guy. He has autism. It's in the early 2000s. He works in a video store, and he, you know, is just having a rough go of it. He's like, I just don't get it, you know? So he has this date that goes horribly wrong, and the next day he's like, no, you know what? I'm going to write a book on what it means to be normal. Yeah. And I'm going to make sure that everything I've failed to do, I write the opposite, and everybody who reads it after doesn't have to live this life that I've lived. So he decides to do that. Meanwhile, his coworker, she's in a custody battle with her ex-husband, who's like a huge dickhead, about her daughter. And he comes in the store one day freaking out, like demanding to see her daughter. And he gets like violent. So then, you know, the main character steps in and hastily breaks it up, and there's kind of a fight, and then they flee. Him, his coworker, and their daughter, they flee. And the book is about them. You know, they decide, we're just going to keep driving. Yeah. We're going to drive and drive and drive. And it's about, you know, him discovering, you know, the depths, like the real world and what it's like to be a person, and how like real relationships can work, all the while trying to write this book on what it's like to be normal. So I've been looking now for a literary agent, which is a hard thing to do. An agent that will... It's kind of bullshit, but it's necessary because the majority, like labels, the majority of publishing houses will not receive unsolicited manuscripts. They need to come from an agent for them to even read them. Yeah. So my current goal, you know, music notwithstanding, is like, all right, if I could get, you know, 20,000 followers on TikTok or whatever. When I'm querying, I'm reaching out to these agents, I can say, hey, you know, across platforms, I have 30,000 followers. They're within this niche. They would love this content. I've written this book. Check it out. But most people, if I didn't put that first part about having a following, they're not even going to read the next sentence.
Yeah.
And, it's a rejection after, I've, queried like 100 agents at this point. And there's way more out there to query. But they always kind of say the same thing. This seems cool, but it's, not something I want to take a chance on right now, whatever. But the power that comes from, saying, I've 20,000 people on TikTok who I could just immediately show them this.
And they'll like this.
Yeah. There's a good chance they'll like it because they like me and I like this. And that means something to them. So that's the current goal, is how can I get as big as possible to increase my bargaining power with basically people who wouldn't give me the time of day otherwise.
Yeah. That's crazy that you're, again, we go back to talking about progress, like seeing like the knowledge that you've gained and being able to use it and apply it to like, again, like something you were originally getting it from music. Now you're applying it. It's like, it'll probably work the same over here, which it is, you know what I mean? Like that's still what they're going to want. Like I would assume it's kind of very similar to a label where like they're more willing to take a chance on something if they can have like something to back
it's the same reason why influencers, they don't reach out for a book deal. They're not even trying to write a book. An agent comes to them and says, hey, I already have a publishing deal for you that I've negotiated. How about we have someone ghostwrite you a book? Well, I'll make the deal. The publisher will put it out. You have a book now. It's a bestseller, And they're like, oh, cool. I didn't even have to do anything. So it's trying to, and that's not what I want to be. I don't want to be, the puppet of somebody else's, corporate revenue. I want to create things that I think are cool and interesting. But
you're seeing what like it's taking to do that. These are people getting approached, so that means I need to be
more like them. Yeah. Which is, you write a book about nonconformity, and then you have to conform to get that to people.
Yeah. You got to know where to bend, but not breaking and again like keeping the authenticity, because then you just turn into something like that where we're talking about it being like, damn, that looks fake as hell.
Yeah, and then I don't want to it's like what I'm loving right now is like the resurgence of pop punk. The fact that I looked it up yesterday, or no, it was a couple days ago, and it's the third biggest genre in the world right now. Pop punk. Yes. If you look at the broad genres, you're not looking at subgenres and stuff. And I was like, that's awesome, because contrary again to what it may have appeared like, because I'm out here writing indie music and stuff and doing all this tweedly deedly soy stuff. That I love. I love The Cure. I love bands like that, The Smiths, stuff like that. That I enjoyed writing, but I grew up on pop punk. I probably I was listening to Blink in the womb. Move Along by All American Rejects. Man, I pretty much played that CD until it stopped working, which for a CD is pretty,
how does that happen?
That's a lot of plays. So there's that's kind of where where I'm feeling what I'm feeling right now is now this content that kind of is genre centric around pop punk, emo, rock kind of stuff is really, really reaching people, and they're super interested in it, and they're very engaged. That same people are commenting all the time, and they're saying, XYZ thing. I'm like, I would like to write some music like that now, because that sounds like fun.
Which you kind of have been.
Oh, and with that too, is the thought of, all right, Bad Lives. What is Bad Lives? I'm like, is Bad Lives an indie project? Or is Bad Lives the music that I want to put out as me, what I'm feeling, and if you're here for it, great. If you're here for this song and not those songs, cool, whatever. It doesn't really matter anymore, actually, because people only listen to what they want to listen to. People aren't throwing on albums anymore. They're making playlists with the songs that they love. So I was like, what if I have a song where I'm screaming and, you go 2 songs down on my most played and it's, Hooked or, The Queen or whatever, or Talk Too Loud. I don't think it necessarily matters anymore. You have someone like Post Malone who puts out a rap song and then he puts out a country album and nobody bats an eye. So I'm like, I think I have permission now to make something that I feel like making and putting it out with this platform that I have that's already elevated, instead of saying, all right, I'm going to start originally, my pop punk project was going to be called No Such Thing. That was going to be the name. And I was like, I'm going to put out music under this name and I'm going to grind it up. But I'm like, why would I do that? I have 10,000 listeners on Bad Lives already.
Yeah.
And if they're people like me, they might like this, you know? So now I'm shifting. You know, I still have a ton of indie music coming out, so don't like run away. It exists and it's cool.
That's
and I love it.
Oh my God, Bad Lives is not indie anymore.
Just, you know, maybe expect some different stuff too mixed in, you know?
Well, I've been talking about, because I was looking at, you did send me like some demos of like the pop punk stuff that you're working on, plus like some of the unreleased stuff from like the album that you're working on.
Yeah.
And I listened to it. It's all like, it was all together. Like, so I listened to it like that, and I'm like, this is cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely, like, you can definitely tell the difference, but it's cool seeing the type of influences, which is funny because like it's a lot of the videos that you've been making, like with Mike and with Blink and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, like you feel a lot of that here.
Yeah.
Which is it's a new aspect, but it was still you, and like I was still listening to that. But yeah, the demos are really like fun and like exciting. Like so you're gonna release still a few more things, or like when's the album?
So you have an album. So like, and the concept of an album in the modern era is already, it is what it is. You know, every single song from the album's getting released as a single, and then on the back end, it'll get compiled onto an album. It's called Is This Adulting? Is the title of the album, because a lot of the songs are just very introspective and they're kind of about the lie of life that we're sold growing up. But you know, they'll get compiled on the back end for the people who love physical media like vinyls and cassettes and stuff. You know, I do. I hate when bands put out like a single and I'm like, that single is so good, and then they release an album after, and I'm like, my vinyl collection's like, be real nice to have that single. That's not in any media. So I'm gonna finish putting out the singles. That'll go through the end of the year, probably early next. And then the compilation of that album will come out. And then after that, I don't know. You know, I'm starting to write these songs. I don't know how like many are gonna happen or how much are gonna, you know, how long I'm gonna keep going with it. But I want it to be firmly its own thing. I don't want to intermix it with like the stuff from this album because it's so heavily indie. Yeah. And like borderline pop, some of the new songs. Yeah. But I would still want them, you know, they are still me. So they'll, you know, I don't know exactly what, you know, I think too about how I want to record them too. Because right now I record everything from this album has been recorded in my home studio. Okay. Every instrument, everything by me in my home studio. You know, engineered by me, produced by me, written by me. And then I send it out to various people to mix and master it. But these songs, I'm like, you know, there's something about like being in a real studio, working with, you know, people who made this kind of music. Like my new goal for that kind of music now, because I'm a very goal-centric person, if you can't tell.
Which has been working, so yes.
Yeah. Because it pushes me, and I'm always thinking about like, you know, I'm here, now what? It's like I'm running through the forest and I'm trying not to get lost. So I pick a tree in front of me and I look at the one that I'm at, and then I run to that tree and I turn around and look at the tree that I was at and say, all right, I know the direction I'm going. Now what's the next tree in that direction? Okay. So I never get lost. Yeah. So I'm like, you know, it'd be really, really cool to get to work with one of these like legacy producers, like Howard Benson or Rob Cavallo or something. Yeah. So I'm like, how much clout do I need on social media? How many followers do I need to where this person thinks this might be worth my time? You know, because in the past, I have gotten to work with some like really cool people, like, you know, Grammy winners, platinum selling, you know, producers or engineers or whatever. And it's because, you know, I'd reached a point where I had a big enough following to where they found me and they thought, oh, what you're making is, or I reached out to them and they thought, okay, what you're making is cool. Yeah. And it seems like people are into it. So let's do it. So now I'm like, all right, how big do I need to grow this thing to be able to do that with them and just, you know, live out a thing, a moment, a dream, you know? And whatever comes of it is what comes of it. Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility, like at all. Like it feels like it's just falling in line in the direction that you're going, like that you've
keep building up to. Like, it's not like a random goal that came out of nowhere where you're just like, oh, you're starting from scratch and I want to get here like next. It's like, no, you've been on the way there. So it's like, this is maybe at the beginning, this would have been wild to like just call out and be like, yeah, I want to do this. But at where you're at, it's like, oh yeah, there's a clear path to this. Like, I just have to
and
keep working
it's like,
at it.
I feel like I'm in a pinball machine, you know? Like it's like I got hit by the bumper, but I'm always going up, but I'm hitting things along the way that are turning me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm still moving forward. It's just like I keep finding myself in places I didn't expect to be, moving in directions I didn't expect to move in, but they still feel like me. You know, I still feel fulfilled by them.
And that's bringing it back to authenticity. Like that's what people, and maybe I'll just generalize people, but like I know me for certain, like I crave like authenticity, just people being themselves. And like I find myself like gravitating towards stuff that I'm not even interested in, but that person is really interested in it, so I'm like, cool, like I'll sit here and watch you fix your lawnmower or whatever. Like I don't own a lawnmower, but I've watched so many like lawnmowers.
You seem to be really into
that. I'm like, you're really like into this, and like you know what you're doing. Like that's cool. Like seeing people passionate about stuff is just will always be my favorite thing in the world. It's just like that's
it's rare now.
It is rare.
It's becoming more and more rare.
It is rare for people to pursue them.
Yeah,
for people to really like invest without thinking like, oh, this is dumb, like if I do it, or like someone's gonna think it's silly or not worth time. Especially like when you're like, oh, is this first question people like ask all the time when like you talk about a passion, like or me specifically when I've ran into stuff like, oh, like you know how much money you're making. And I was like, oh, why is it monetary already?
I know,
like,
and it's like one of those things too where like, if you go into it expecting to get something, it's probably not gonna happen. You know, it's like you don't post on TikTok every day for 2 years unless you really find some enjoyment there. You know, otherwise at some point you're just gonna stop and you're gonna turn around and you're gonna be like, well, that was a waste. It's like that meme where the person's like mining in the cave, and then there's like a little sliver between them and the diamonds, and they turn around. You know,
what's that? I mean, and you're gonna. I mean, one, if you assign like, oh, I want to get this, and this is why I'm doing it, and you set like a. It's I guess, I mean, again, goal setting is good, but like if you set the wrong type of goal, then you're setting yourself up to immediately fail.
I think it's like goal versus requirement. You know, where I need this must happen, otherwise. You know, it's not.
And then you experience failures early on that immediately are going to discourage you. And then you're like, oh, you know what? I don't want to do this after all. And then if you don't like what you're doing, like how the hell are you and you're doing it like at the beginning and it's like, oh, I can do all this shit that I don't like. But then if you hit that, you know, if you hit that next level where you have to do it more now, then you're doing more of something that you don't like. Like why are we heading this direction? You know, you picked the wrong one.
Another thing that Morgan, he was the guy from Universal, he told me, if you don't, this was Warner, not Universal. Scratch that. He told me, if you don't enjoy what you're having to do to get to a point where they're going to pay attention to you, don't do it. Because you know what your label rep is going to do? They're going to text you every day and ask you if you've posted on TikTok today. And then they're going to say, if you haven't, do it. So you're going to be doing the exact same thing you're doing right now, except someone's going to be making you do it instead of you doing it because you enjoy it. So if you don't enjoy it, don't do it, because that's your new life, you know?
Yeah. And then I feel like that's when it comes to anything. Again, you can't pursue these things you don't enjoy and then expect it to have longevity, because if you don't like them now, like money or prestige or any of those things like aren't going to help you enjoy it later. You know what I mean? Like it'll be like, cool, I get money, but like, oh, I have to do this. Like it'll become that. It'll be like, I have to do this. It's a job. It's not enjoyment anymore. And I feel like that's real. And again, like dude, you just have to feel fulfilled. You have to feel happy. Like that's the biggest thing that I found in like everything that I do. I'm like, if I enjoy doing something, like I will do it like for fucking ever. And like whatever comes from it. And I've had like a lot of stuff come from it, and I'm like, that's all just extra shit. Like I go, but I'm happy. I'm being fulfilled. Like I'm getting what I need. And I feel like that's what people need to take away from like pursuing their passion or pursuing the things that they're doing. It's like making sure that's at the core. Yeah,
something that I've been trying to get better at is appreciating things, you know, not that I wasn't like grateful. I mean, appreciation and like taking a moment and stopping and saying allowing yourself to absorb, you know, the beauty of a situation that you're in or beauty of something that happened to you. Whereas like one of the detriments of being super, super forward moving all the time is I would reach milestones and there were things like objectively, you know, somebody in, you know, some band would be like, if this one thing happened to me, that would be like, you know, that's my satisfaction for life. Is like, wow, I got to play in a band and this happened. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And, you know, I was at a point where I was just like, bing, 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 next. Like, I was not stopping to appreciate the beauty of anything. And that really wore on me. So now as like, you know, more things happen, you know, say I get to meet somebody or somebody DMs me, like the other day, Anthony Green, like commented on one of my videos and he was like, you know, this is awesome. Like I love it, whatever. And I was like, wow, like that's great. Or like the other day, Simple Plan, like commented on a TikTok video.
Yeah. Oh, I just,
and I was like, what? That's like these little dumb, like, you know, it's cool. And it fills you up, like you're filling up your cup so you can keep drinking, you know? Whereas like before, if you just never stop, then eventually you kind of fall out. And I kind of fell out of love with, I wouldn't say music, but almost, because I was at a point where everything needed to yield, everything needed to have a result. Whereas I wasn't just creating something to feel good.
Yeah. You know, it happens. It happens.
Burnout's real.
It happen with. I mean, burnouts are real, and it's just all you need is like these little moments to appreciate, and then you're good, and then you take it. But and I do it all the time where I ignore it, and then it's just like, oh, like, and then and this keeps coming up over and over because it happens every fucking time. But I take these breaks that aren't supposed to be breaks. Like they're just like, oh, like I just, you know, I didn't book anything this week, so I'll wait till next week, and then I wait, but it's not really a break because I'm constantly failing at booking the next thing. So I'm just feeling worse and worse. And then in that time I'm just like, why the fuck do I even do this? Like, I don't, like, it's so much work. Like, I don't even like
it's hard to get outside of that though. Yeah. Because like for me, like, let me like hype you right now.
Oh no.
Like you have to stop and like think about the fact that, you know, you put together entire events regularly that are like extremely meaningful to creators, you know, because we get to showcase, you know, you facilitate the expansion of our art while also getting all these people to come in and give you money to accept art, you know? and there's like, think about who's been capable of doing that and sustaining it, and then not only sustaining it, but then offshooting and doing all these other cool things to help creators. Like that means a lot to the community. It means a lot to a lot of people. And, you know, you within yourself, you're like, man, I didn't book a show this week or whatever. Like, what am I doing? But, you know, to book one show already in itself is like some crazy feat to put together. But to, you know, do hundreds of them is pretty insane. Yeah,
I had a moment, which it's funny enough. Like I had a moment last night. We had a show in Dallas with a band called Castell came by, and there was, I mean, it was a small show. Like a few people came out. It wasn't the biggest thing in the world, but there was this one kid there. He like came in, was like there for Castell specifically, and I remember like he immediately like bought a shirt, like put it on. He was like excited, put it on, and like again we were at a small place. This band like didn't have like a ton of people come out for them or anything, but I saw this kid and he was like trying to record the entire set, and he's ready to hold his arm. I was like, "Are you recording the whole set?" And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I had like a tripod, so I'm like, "Here, borrow this." Yeah. And he was like hype, but he was like jumping up and down. So one guy like really going at it, and I turned to DJ and I'm just like, that's why we fucking do this, man. Yeah. This one guy, like, and then I talked to him afterwards, and he's like, yeah, I drove like an hour and a half just to be able to see that. Like, this is the closest they're coming. Like, so he's like thanking us. And then it turns out he did know like who we were, because he's like, oh, do you have an Instagram? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, and he like looks up Noise Right. He's like, wait, you like do that? I was like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, creating moments like that are like what got me to be part of, like, now on the opposite end, I was like, okay, being able to create those moments was because I experienced those, and they just like had the time of my life. I was that one person like freaking out over this one band that none of my friends knew was coming, and I was just like happy as hell that I could see them. Just taking moments to be like, damn, that's really appreciated. Little things that do build up to be like, oh, you are making a positive.
And like recognizing, embracing in a world that's becoming less and less human centric, like embracing the humanity of all this. Like when I look at, I look back and I think 600 monthly listeners. I'm like, those are 600 real people. Those are people who wake up, drive to their job. They're living these whole lives. Each one of those people. Sometimes I'm in like traffic and I'm like, man, there's a lot of people around me. Every single person like around me has their whole thing going on. But like every once in a while I'll get a comment and someone will be like, I listen to the song all the time. I didn't realize you had like 10,000 listeners. Like, how have you not like blown up or whatever? And I'm just like, man, that's crazy that like somebody could hear something that I made and they love it and they listen to it all the time. And then they reach out and they're like, it's people, And that's what I love about live. I started in live theater. That was where I started. And now transitioning to live music. That's what I love about live performance is it's a moment with people. It ebbs and flows. It changes, especially in theater when you're presenting the same show every night. You're doing the exact same words and everything, but somehow the energy of the audience, what they're giving to you completely changes the performance. There's no similar performance. Every single night you get to see something different and feel something different. So I feel like we lose, and I think summatively, like within the rat race of it all, bands, feeling like they need to put you down to lift themselves up, or all these other negative or whatever things happening, we kind of just lose the fact that we're all people, we're on this little marble, and we're floating around. There's no real purpose to any of this. We're all just supposed to be here to have a good time and hopefully to be kind to people. And I don't think there's a whole lot more to it than that, at least not to me.
Yeah, no, that's at the center of it all. Like if you do that, like you're gonna have a great time no matter where you go. And that's all you can do. You can't like... I don't know. We sometimes just try to live as if everybody lives or everybody has the same perspectives that we do. And
or if they're wrong, if they don't.
Yes. Yeah. And once you like open yourself up to like just understanding and being like, hey, my thoughts aren't the only ones that are valid or even exist. You learn just to be able to listen more and to be like, to actually empathize with people in like a real way and again, grow your community stronger. Again, like live music has been one of those for me that, especially like if I'm going to see a band that I like, let's say like I'm the only person, I went by myself, but there's a room full of people going to see this band and I'm like, dude, we all are here because we like this band. I go, so we have that in common. Like if we have nothing else in common, I go, we're here to listen to music and be together. Even if you're alone, like I've made temporary friends at shows where we're just like a group of people that we're like jumping up and down with or singing the lyrics or something like that and having the best time ever. And then we go off our separate ways, live our lives. And it's like, yes, but that moment still existed, like that experience still existed, and we're all the better like for it. You know what I mean? Like those are the moments you want to try to create, and you can do that by just being kind. I like that.
And you see like within that specific, like within the genre of like heavier music or just rock centric music, people are always like, people have an idea of, who these people are, and they want to put you in a corner as this type of person. But, I go to a very wide range of shows, and like the rock, like the heavier shows, the shows where people are like in the pit, like going crazy. Those are the shows where I feel most comfortable and most safe and most like, for a lack of a like better word, like loved by the environment. Because like if someone falls in the pit, people step back, they lift them up, you keep rocking. Whereas like, at a Travis Scott concert, you fall in the pit, you die. Like, people don't give a fuck about you. And I'm not trying to paint, like, all fans. That's hyperbolic. I'm just saying, from my personal experience, that's something that, as that genre fell out of fashion, it was kind of sad because there was a big dry spell for shows like that for me, where I was like, it was only if I could pay, $200 to go see a legacy band like Blink. And then we're all like, man, my knees hurt. How are we rocking here? So I'm so happy the genre is back and there are new young artists pursuing it because, the pendulum swings, and we're kind of right now in that, very interpersonal, not really thinking about humanity, and I'm ready for it to swing back where everybody like cares about people and we share good experiences in person, and that's the focus.
Okay. I like that. I think that's a good way to bookend that, because that's all you need. That's all we need. I feel like everybody has those moments that exist, and those are like the best times that they have when they
that's
feel
what we're trying to create.
that togetherness. Yeah. Okay. But I'm excited for the rest of the album to come out, hopefully like this year in singles and stuff. But the pop punk stuff, y'all gonna have to wait for that shit. But it's so good. It's so good. And those are only demos. Like I was like, I know these are gonna sound so fucking good. But yeah, anything you wanna leave
No, just don't stop. I think that's my motto right now. Is just don't, because there's like tons of times where I thought about like not quitting, but like just like not doing this anymore for a long time. And I think if I would have ever given in to any of those moments, I wouldn't be here right now. But it's like I've wanted to get better at the drums for a long time, and I keep starting and then stopping, and then it'll be like 2 years, and I was like, man, like if I would have kept with it, I'd be a pretty decent drummer right now. So just don't stop. People, I didn't start music until I was like 18 years old. And like even I didn't start playing the guitar. It's my first instrument until I was 18 years old. And people are always like, oh, it's too late to start, whatever. And I'm like, not really. Like 10 years from now, you're going to be 10 years older. The only difference is, you won't be 10 years into this thing that you're really interested in doing. So don't stop. Don't quit. Keep trying. Do cool things. Be cool people.
Heck yeah. I like that. Well, this has been episode 140.
Five?
Is that what I said?
Sure.
145 with Jordan from Bad Lives. Listen to everything that Bad Lives has going on. Follow them on everything so we can get those numbers up. We can get a book. We can get some music.
Yes.
And thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next time.
Bye.
I don't wanna be alone tonight. Baby, touch on the